Alright, let's just get this out of the way. The Nintendo Wii and GameCube. Because of the fact that Super Mario Galaxy movie released almost a month ago. And we're having it coincidentally be at the same time. The Nintendo GameCube and Wii are 6th and 7th generation consoles that really had a lot of rough history to get to those points. Now, obviously, of course, their hugest competitors, Xbox and PlayStation, were just kind of starting their footprints during this time. But you also have to kind of remember, Sega was also still in the game while the GameCube was still in development. And therefore, Sega, 2 years before, decided to pump out with the Dreamcast while the PS1 was still driving in sales. The same thing could be said with the Nintendo 64, and Microsoft wasn't even into the realm yet. After 6 years of the original PlayStation's production, the PlayStation 2 released in 2000, March 2000 to be specific in Japan, and October 2000 in the United States. And my goodness, was this a beast to behold with, or what? The reason as to why I say this was a beast to behold with because of the fact that not only did it have some of the best games ever, it had one of the hugest libraries, had DVD playback, and full-on backwards compatibility with the previous generation. According to multiple sources, there were over 4,000 games released in North America. Meanwhile, worldwide, there were over 10,000 PS2 titles. Crazy, right? It introduced a lot of brand new IP, such as Jak and Daxter, Sly Cooper, Ratchet & Clank, God of War, Katamari Damacy, and had returning franchises that would revolutionize the console, such as Grand Theft Auto, Final Fantasy, and just so many others, such as Twisted Metal, that I could just go on and on. You thought that the PS1 was huge with the introduction to Ape Escape, Twisted Metal, Tomb Raider, Metal Gear Solid, Final Fantasy VII? Well, you're wrong, because the PS2 was gargantuan with what it sold and what it was meant to be. Needless to say, Sega was not doing in the best of reputation for selling home systems. So therefore, after only 2 years of production, they decided to become a third-party publisher and therefore have their games become third-party to a lot of the newer, shinier competition. And so, Nintendo was up for a battle by 2001. Xbox was right around the corner, and Nintendo was about to unleash their box. November 2001. Both the Nintendo GameCube and the Xbox were unleashed worldwide. The Xbox was pretty new, but they knew what they wanted to do. So therefore, they decided to have Bungie help them out with making a brand new franchise called Halo, which would spark hundreds of people to go on over to Xbox a year after PlayStation 2 released. But that didn't matter at the end of the day. PlayStation was still going strong with a lot of its first and third party IPs such as Katamari and God of War. And Xbox? Well, they had the Titan himself, Master Chief in Halo. And what did Nintendo have? For the GameCube? Well, you'd be surprised if I told you it was a solo Luigi game and multiple brand new Nintendo IPs. Not to mention the first party IPs such as Mario, Donkey Kong, and The Legend of Zelda weren't even existing just yet, and we had to wait a year or two until they released a brand new entry. Nintendo was kind of odd also, because of the fact that the GameCube could not have full DVD playback because of the small CDs it was using during that time in order for pirating games to not be existent. Later on, after the disastrous launch, they ended up getting a lot more IP that was familiar and or new, such as Super Mario Sunshine, Pikmin, Kirby Air Ride, F-Zero GX, and Metroid Prime. That wasn't to say that the launch wasn't too horrible. We were introduced to a brand new franchise called Animal Crossing, which would later have more and more popularity throughout the years as more installments passed by after the GameCube had diminished, and Luigi's Mansion, which also sparked a brand new franchise for the character to have his own solo adventure. But needless to say, Nintendo was still in a slump, regardless of the fact that they were still selling pretty niche and decent games alongside the rest of the competition. Xbox at the same time began to understand why they weren't as successful as PlayStation was. So therefore, they made an ultimate checkmate by unleashing the Xbox 360 a year before Nintendo and Sony would put themselves on the map once more. By the time that the third descendant of Sony Computer Entertainment released, it had a lot of flaws, including the fact that it was an overpriced console and the fact that they were over cocky with the marketing, with it being $600 total for a base PS3. After 5 years of having to struggle within the gaming market, Nintendo knew that this time it wouldn't be a dud, and this time it would cater to all audiences. You see, the big issues lied within the fact that Nintendo was pretty frantic about the fact that they were no longer the dominant console to go to for families. You could just have multiple broad audiences have their own demographic and therefore go with it. Hence PlayStation, Sega, and later into the realm of gaming Xbox. These kinds of moves would therefore let Nintendo have to casually shift into modern audiences and what they wanted. And unfortunately, their take on it was not really that great. As I've mentioned before, the Nintendo GameCube sold about as much as the original Xbox, and the Nintendo 64, while still successful, was kind of in a little bit of a slump behind the scenes, as it was really a console that kind of started to feel a little bit outdated due to how they only used cartridges, whereas something as the PS1, or let's say it was a later Sega console, would use proprietary DVDs and CDs. By the time of the PS3 release, it was complete hot garbage. Meanwhile, for Nintendo, the Wii was their backup plan. And backup plan, it absolutely wrecked the competition. Mind you, the Xbox 360 was still popular, but people started to notice the infamous see what I did there? Red ring of death. So, needless to say, the console was an absolute success after failing, or nearly failing, 1.5 generations. It seemed as if this was their golden era. The best way to actually make consoles that catered towards families once more. It does beg the question though, how was it successful? How did it beat Sony and Microsoft's chances while they were struggling in their most toughest times, even though it felt as if they were riding high? And well, I'm here to tell you, there was, and still is, always one answer. The fact that you could customize your own character, known as a Mii, and play as your own avatar in a little game called Wii Sports. This game was revolutionary because of the fact that you were able to customize characters, let yourself actually have fun with your grandparents, and overall this was a system bestseller at this point because of the fact that it felt as if it wasn't just one particular audience out of many being chosen one at a time or three at a time. Not to mention the fact that this came with the console itself. It was a bundle package, pretty much meaning that this was a game by default that people would play, hence why it was considered, and still kind of is, one of the best-selling titles, period. Other games would include the sequel to Wii Sports Resort, Mario Kart Wii, and so many others that felt as if they were just first party, but you'd be surprised at how much other third party publishers and developers were able to get a hand on the Wii because of the fact that it was much more simple to make games than the nightmarish PS3 and Also, the Xbox 360, obviously, of course, had refunds already at the tailgate of its dominance. And as I mentioned before, all good things must come to an end, since the GameCube didn't end around the mid to late 2000s. So the Nintendo Wii lasted until 2012, which is normal for a lifespan of a console, 8 years. And now that we've dived into the history, let us now observe the consoles themselves, both the GameCube and Wii, and some of the games they had. Buckle up, because this is probably not going to be one of those things where there is a lot of games that are either first-party Nintendo IP or shovelware. So, gear in, strap a seatbelt, let's get into it. I'm not gonna explain too much. I feel as if, it's pretty self-explanatory, but I'm just gonna state the essentials. If you do want to get a Wii, or what are some of the best games during those generations, also the GameCube, and like I said before, the Wii. So let us analyze, shall we? So basically, here it is. Here are some of my games, at least. These are pretty much just going to be first-party titles. I do not have any GameCube games, but these are the best I can do when it comes to celebrating some of Nintendo's rich history. So here it is. First, I have Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Not the best within the Smash Bros. Franchise, but, it's definitely one where at least you gotta give it one run. Wii Play, it kind of feels like a DLC coming out from Wii Sports, and it's not really that enjoyable. Mario Kart Wii, probably the second best one that feels polished enough. The Wii remote, you kind of have to go like this, So it's not, it's not horrible. It's just, it's not like a Nintendo Switch right there, like you see that right there, yeah. And it's not like a Nintendo Switch where it's easy for the motion controls. You kind of have to stir it as if it's a steering wheel. But other than that, it's a really nice, solid, fun entry into the Mario Kart franchise. Donkey Kong Country Returns. A return to the 2D platforming that was Donkey Kong from the N64 days up until now, and the Super Nintendo days, and you get what I mean. This is a banger. I'm just gonna say it right now. This is a fire game. Definitely a classic. If you're someone who likes 2D platformers and want to complete it at any point, if you have a Wii, I would definitely recommend that one. Let's see here. Super Mario Bros. Wii. That is also a good one. If you enjoyed the new Super Mario Bros. Series, then this would definitely be one for you to pick up. It's pretty much kind of like an extended part of New Super Mario Bros. For Nintendo DS, but it's really enjoyable. I mean, you could connect 4 players onto this game, and it feels like a couch co-op also. Then we have Wii Sports, finally last but not least. This is the iconic, the one that came in package, signatured with Nintendo's console. That's what felt special about it. Now, there's a lot of other games out there that I would definitely recommend, but obviously I do not have them. I do have Wii Fit and a few shovelware games, but other than that, that's kind of about it for the Nintendo Wii side of things. For GameCube, there is Super Mario Sunshine. For Wii, there's Super Mario Galaxy. And for Nintendo 64, there's Super Mario 64, Star Fox 64, Star Fox Adventures. There is, goodness, Pikmin. There is way too many Nintendo franchises that I can think of when it comes to the Gen Z era of Nintendo, and you could definitely tell that compared to now, there was way better quality gaming. I mean, sure, it wasn't the best compared to today's standards, but I mean, back then you just had game after game, row after row, and I'm gonna make an upcoming video about that, so just be aware for that to happen at some point. Maybe just not now, but honestly, it was nice to talk about a little bit of history of Nintendo and, my personal experience coming to Nintendo. I mean, we have 6 games. I mean, after all, the Wii was meant for families, and then the GameCube was for families, sure, but you had more of a single player narrative for a lot of the stories. And then the Wii was the exact opposite with its shovelware and its various third party and its first party bolstering lineup. And so that's kind of about it for this video. I mean, this is the amount of games I have that makes sense if you have families who love Nintendo. But I mean, yeah, that's kind of about it. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next one. Who knows? Maybe Xbox, maybe old gaming videos, like maybe like talking about and like ranting why we need games like these back. I don't know. We'll see. But other than that, that's kind of about it. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.